that shows us, let's listen, that shows us the Edwards Aquifer. We can see here that when it rains, that rain goes off the land and meets up with creeks. Those creeks, some of them that go in the recharge area actually disappear underground and take their water inside the Edwards Aquifer. But here's the 3D model of the same thing. Pretty cool, isn't it? Over here we have our recharge area. So anything that falls in the recharge area is going to move around through the aquifer in the limestone below and come out in the discharge area where the springs are. Most of our rivers and creeks around here are spring-fed. Here's Ted's well. Here's Miss Turtle's well. Here's Ladybird Lake, slowly filling up over time over there. All right, so let's see what happens when a nice gentle rainstorm falls over the recharge zone in central Texas. All right, I'll use blue to represent water, and then I'm going to squeeze some more water through. And this is just like how the real thing works. All that pressure squeezes the water around inside the aquifer. If you guys could use your X-ray vision today and look down into the ground, 200 feet down is where this great big aquifer would be. But it's not just under us here in Austin. It stretches all the way out past San Antonio. Pretty neat. All right, so we saw that good fresh rainwater fell in the recharge zone. It refilled the aquifer. It filled up some of the wells. It's filling up the spring and the river. Okay, so we would want to go swim in that, right? Lots of great fresh water to go swim in. How many of you guys have ever been swimming at Barton Springs? All right, brave. Very good. And how many of you guys have ever been to the free museum there called the Splash Exhibit? Oh, you guys got to go back there. It's free, and they have all kinds of endangered species on display for you to see. It's not very often we get to see endangered species up close. Okay, so we saw how that water moves around the system, but just like water can move through it, so can what else? Pollution. Right, so let's start with Ted's septic tank. We need septic tanks, no big deal. Problem is, if they're overflowing or if they have any cracks or leaks, then that septic material could get out into our aquifer and move around through the system. So let's see what happens since Ted hasn't had his service in a while. Can you see the yellow moving into the sands and the rocks, down to the clay layer? Where else is it going? Into Ladybird Lake. Where did we say we get our drinking water? So we need to make sure that these kinds of pollutions don't get in there anymore. Now if we keep looking, my spring over there is going to turn from that nice blue color to all of a sudden it's turning kind of yellow and kind of green because Ted's septic pollution has moved through the underground and it's popping up over there at the rivers and springs. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad. Okay, so let's see. Ted also uses a lot of fertilizer instead of planting native grasses and wildflowers. So he puts a nasty chemical fertilizer down on his plants in his yard. And when the rain comes, that fertilizer is going to wash off the land and into where? The lake, that's right. Does anybody remember what Miss Turtle said the big deal with too much fertilizer is? It can make something grow. Yes. Algae. And what's the problem with too much algae?
It takes away all the oxygen.
Takes away all the oxygen. And then the fish and turtles and plants can't live. Okay, now we're going to